India's independence, the story of the freedom that changed a nation. As the first light of dawn touches a quiet Indian street, the sky slowly transforms into shades of orange. A young boy stands beside his grandfather, holding a tiny paper tricolour in his hands.
Grandpa, why do we celebrate Independence Day?
Because many years ago, India became free.
Free?
Free? Yes.
But India was always India, wasn't it?
India was always India. But there was a time when Indians did not get to decide everything about their own country.
So, how did India become free?
That's a very long story. A story of courage. A story of sacrifice. A story of people who refused to give up. And most importantly, a story of millions of ordinary Indians who decided that their country should belong to its people. And that story begins not on August 15, 1947, but many years before.
Chapter 1. When traders came to India. Hundreds of years ago, India was a land famous across the world. Its spices were valuable, its textiles were famous, its markets were busy, its cities were rich in culture, art, science and trade. European traders wanted to buy Indian goods. Among them was a company that would become extremely important in India's history, the East India Company. At first, it came mainly to trade, but slowly, something changed. The company began gaining political and military power. It fought battles, it made alliances, it took control of territories. And over time, the company became much more than a trading business. It became a powerful ruler. By the 18th century, the East India Company had become a dominant political force in large parts of the subcontinent. Then came a major turning point. Chapter 2. The Revolt of 1857. In 1857, a major uprising broke out against East India Company rule. It began among soldiers of the company's army but spread to many places and involved different groups of people. History remembers it by several names: the Revolt of 1857, the Indian Rebellion of 1857, and sometimes the First War of Independence. Many people fought. Among the famous figures were Rani Lakshmibai of Jhansi, Bahadur Shah Zafar, Nana Sahib, Tansha Tope, and many others. The uprising was eventually suppressed, but something important had changed. The British government decided that the East India Company would no longer govern India directly. In 1858, control of India was transferred to the British Crown, and this marked the beginning of a new phase of British rule. Chapter 3. A new idea begins to grow. India was enormous. Different regions had different languages, different traditions, different religions, different foods, different customs. But slowly, something new began to grow. A common political idea. Indians should have a greater say in the future of India. In 1885, the Indian National Congress was formed. At first, its leaders mainly demanded political reforms and greater participation for Indians in government. But over the decades, the demand became much bigger. The idea of self-government grew stronger. And then, a remarkable leader entered the story. Chapter 4. The man with a simple idea. His name was Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. We know him today as Mahatma Gandhi. But Gandhi did not look like the powerful rulers people might imagine. He wore simple clothes, he often walked, he lived simply, and he believed something that sounded almost unbelievable. You could fight injustice without becoming violent yourself. Gandhi helped turn India's freedom struggle into a mass movement. Instead of telling people, take up weapons, he often told them,
stand together. Refuse to cooperate with injustice. Do not answer violence with violence.
This idea became known as non-violent resistance and civil disobedience. But Gandhi was not alone, not even close. Chapter 5. Millions joined the story. India's independence movement was not the story of one hero. It was the story of millions. Some protested peacefully, some boycotted British goods, some went to prison, some wrote newspapers. Some organized movements, some fought with revolutionary methods, some worked underground, some served as messengers. Some lost their homes, some lost their families, and some lost their lives. The freedom struggle had many leaders and many different approaches. There was Gandhi, there was Jawaharlal Nehru, there was Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. There was Subhash Chandra Bose. There was Sarojini Naidu. There was Maulana Abul Kalam Azad. There were Bhagat Singh, Chandrasekhar Azad and many other revolutionaries, and countless people whose names history did not record. Chapter 6. The day India first said, "We want complete freedom." Here is a fascinating fact. Before India actually became independent on 15th August, there was another day called Independence Day. Confused? Let's go back to 1929. The Indian National Congress adopted the goal of Purna Swaraj. That meant complete self-rule, complete independence. The date chosen to celebrate this demand was 26th January 1930. Across India, people observed the day and took pledges supporting independence. Hence, the day continued to be observed as Independence Day for several years. So why don't we celebrate Independence Day on 26th January today? Because history had another surprise waiting. After India actually became independent in 1947, 26th January was later given a new meaning. On 26th January 1950, India's constitution came into effect. India became a republic, and 26th January became Republic Day. Two important dates. Two different stories. Chapter 7. The salt that became a symbol. Now imagine something very ordinary, something you probably have in your kitchen: salt. In 1930, Gandhi decided to challenge British laws and taxes connected to salt. He began a long march from Sabarmati Ashram to the coastal village of Dandi. Hundreds joined him, and as the march continued, thousands more people became inspired. The message was simple. If ordinary people could peacefully challenge an unfair law, they could show that an empire was not all-powerful. The Salt March became one of the most famous episodes of India's independence movement, and it showed the world something important. A small act can become a huge movement. Chapter 8. The world goes to war. Then came the Second World War. In 1939, Britain entered the war against Nazi Germany. India was also drawn into the war effort under British rule. But many Indian leaders were unhappy that India was involved in the war without Indians having full control over the decision. The struggle for independence grew even stronger. And in 1942 came a powerful call. Chapter 9. Quit India. In August 1942, the Indian National Congress launched the Quit India movement. The message was clear: British rule should end. Gandhi called for the British to leave India. The movement spread, leaders were arrested, but people continued protesting. In many places, ordinary citizens kept the movement alive. Students, workers, farmers, women, young people, old people. The British government tried to suppress the movement, but the demand for freedom had become too powerful to simply disappear. Chapter 10. The world after the war. Then, in 1945, World War II ended. Britain had won the war, but the war had left Britain exhausted economically and politically. At the same time, the demand for Indian independence was stronger than ever. Britain now faced a difficult question: how long could it continue ruling India? In February 1947, British Prime Minister Clement Attlee announced that Britain intended to transfer power to India no later than June 1948. But events moved much faster. A new viceroy arrived. His name was Lord Mountbatten. And suddenly, the countdown to independence became very short. Chapter 11. The map is about to change. But there was a terrible problem. Different political groups could not agree on how the future country should be organized. Communal tensions had become extremely serious. Eventually, the decision was made to divide British India. Two new dominions would emerge: India and Pakistan. The Indian Independence Act was passed by the British Parliament. It received royal assent on 18th July 1947, and it provided for the creation of the two new dominions. But dividing a country was not like drawing a simple line on a piece of paper. Millions of people suddenly found themselves on the wrong side of a new border. Chapter 12. Freedom and Sadness. As partition took place, millions of Hindus, Muslims and Sikhs were displaced. People traveled across the new borders looking for safety, and terrible violence followed. Families were separated, homes were abandoned, many people lost everything. Hundreds of thousands, and possibly far more, died in the violence surrounding partition. Historical estimates vary considerably. This is one of the hardest parts of India's independence story, because freedom brought enormous joy, but partition also brought enormous pain. And while celebrations were beginning in Delhi, one of India's most famous leaders was somewhere else. Chapter 13. Where was Gandhi? On 15th August 1947, India became independent. Crowds celebrated, flags flew, people danced, there was music, there was excitement. But Gandhi was not in Delhi. He was in Calcutta, trying to stop communal violence. Instead of attending grand celebrations, he spent the day working for peace. He also observed a 24-hour fast. For Gandhi, freedom was not complete if Indians were hurting one another. That was the kind of freedom he believed India needed. Chapter 14. Midnight. Now, let us return to Delhi. It is the night of 14th August 1947. Members of the Constituent Assembly gather in New Delhi. The clock moves toward midnight. India is about to become independent. At around 11 p.m., the assembly meets, and Jawaharlal Nehru rises to speak.
At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom.
He spoke about a moment that would come rarely in history, a moment when an old age ends and a new one begins. At midnight, the transfer of power took effect. India was free. Chapter 15. 15th August 1947. And then came the morning. 15th August 1947. India was now an independent country. Jawaharlal Nehru became India's first Prime Minister. The Indian flag was raised. People celebrated across the country. The day contained official ceremonies, flag ceremonies, illuminations, fireworks and receptions. It was a celebration unlike anything India had experienced. But there is another fascinating detail. The first Independence Day celebration was not exactly the same as the celebration we know today. The tradition of the Prime Minister raising the flag at the Red Fort and addressing the nation became the great annual symbol of Independence Day. Today, that ceremony is watched by millions. Chapter 16. Why the Red Fort? Every 15th August, the Prime Minister of India raises the national flag at the Red Fort in Delhi and addresses the nation. But why the Red Fort? Because the Red Fort is one of the most famous historic symbols of Delhi and India's past. Today, when the tricolour rises above its walls, it connects India's ancient history, its colonial past, its independence, and its modern democracy. The ceremony has become one of India's most recognizable Independence Day traditions. Chapter 17. The Tricolour. And what about the flag? The Indian national flag has three horizontal colours: saffron, white, green, and in the centre, the Ashoka Chakra, a blue wheel with 24 spokes. It reminds us that India is always moving forward. Today, the tricolour can be seen everywhere on Independence Day, at schools, at homes, on buildings, in streets, and flying proudly from the Red Fort. But remember, a flag is not just a piece of cloth. For millions of Indians, it represents an idea, a country, a people, and the freedom they struggled to achieve. Chapter 18. Independence Day today. Today, Independence Day is celebrated across India. Schools hold flag-hoisting ceremonies. Children sing patriotic songs. People perform dances and plays. Families decorate their homes. Buildings are illuminated. And in many parts of India, the sky fills with colorful kites. The national celebration is centered in Delhi, but Independence Day belongs to every part of India, from the Himalayas to the coasts, from the deserts to the forests, from huge cities to tiny villages. Chapter 19. But what does freedom really mean?
So independence means India became free from the British?
Yes. But freedom means more than that.
What else?
Think about it. If you are free, you should also be responsible. If you have rights, you must respect the rights of others. If you want your country to become better, you must help make it better.
Even children?
Especially children. Because one day, you will be the people taking care of this country.
We will!
Chapter 20. The Real Heroes. When we talk about India's independence, we often remember famous names, and we should. Their contributions mattered. But there is another group of heroes, people whose names may never appear in history books. The farmer who joined a protest. The student who distributed messages. The woman who hid a freedom fighter. The worker who joined a strike. The family that lost someone. The ordinary person who decided, I want a free India. The freedom struggle belonged to millions, and that may be its most extraordinary lesson. Final chapter. The flag rises. So, why do we celebrate 15th August? Not simply because a date appears on the calendar. Not simply because schools have a holiday. Not simply because we fly kites, or eat sweets, or wear the colors of the flag. We celebrate because 15th August reminds us of a journey. A journey that took generations. A journey filled with courage, hope, mistakes, sacrifice, unity, disagreement, and determination. On 15th August 1947, India became independent. But independence was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of a new one. The story of building a nation where people would choose their leaders, a nation governed by its constitution, a nation made up of hundreds of millions of different people, but sharing one country.
Grandpa? If the freedom fighters gave us freedom, what do we have to give India?
Your honesty, your kindness, your hard work, your respect for others.
your willingness to learn, and your promise to make India a little better than you found it.
That's a big job.
Yes, but remember, the people who fought for freedom were ordinary people too. They simply decided to do something extraordinary.
India's independence was won many years ago, but the responsibility of freedom belongs to every generation. So when the Tricolour rises this 15th August, don't just look at the flag, look at the story behind it. Remember the people who dreamed of freedom. Remember those who sacrificed for it. Remember those who suffered during partition. And remember that a nation is not built only by its leaders. It is built every day by its people. From a small village to a giant city, from the youngest child to the oldest citizen, we are all part of India's next chapter. And perhaps that is the greatest meaning of Independence Day.
Happy Independence Day! Jai Hind! Jai Hind!
Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe by clicking the bell, and share this video. And I'll see you in the next one.